All extremely successful people have one thing in common. They're working towards their freedom. They're not working for a job. What's going on, guys? It's Uzziah, your success consultant. And in today's video, I want to be able to teach you how to be able to work towards your freedom so that way you can get what you really want out of your life. So the very first thing that I want to be able to do in this video is I want to be able to deprogram some of the negative myths that you've been taught growing up that's gotten you in your current predicament. So one of the first things that you ever learned was if you want to be able to make money, you've got to be able to work. And I know right now this sounds crazy because I haven't fully elaborated on what I'm going to say yet. I'm not telling you that money is just going to fall down from the heavens above. But when you think about just that mindset of the only way that you will get paid is if you work, it creates a negative cycle in your brain that's always telling you to trade your time for money. In this video, I want you to understand that truly successful people have devised ways so that way they can get paid in a manner that's exclusive to their time. I want you to deconstruct and deprogram the thought that your time has to be connected to money. Why is this important? You're never really going to be able to get the things that you want out of life if you have this type of mentality. Because, there's a lot of people, you see them traveling the world, you see them doing really awesome things, and you wonder, how does that ever happen? Like in real life, not in some Facebook ad, not in some YouTube ad, not in fantasy world, not in a fairy tale. How are people actually able to travel and go on vacations and do like all this cool bucket list stuff if you actually have to go out and work to be able to get your pay? Well, the true reality is some people in life have understood ways to be able to make money that's exclusive of their time. So let me give you a prime example on what I'm talking about to really drive the point home, okay? You got some people, and this is the majority of people in America today, right? I would say probably 90+%. 90+% of Americans today go to a job every single day where whenever they make money from that job, it's based upon the number of hours worked. Whenever they stop working at that job physically in terms of man hours, that's when they stop getting paid, okay? I did the same thing when I was working, in corporate America. I was under the exact same setup. But then I left corporate America to be able to set up my own business where now there are times in which I work, but I get paid at times that's exclusive of my man hours. So there's been times where I've been asleep and I wake up and I check my phone and I realize that somebody was paying me while I was asleep. I wasn't doing any work. I wasn't putting in any hours, but somehow I was getting paid independent of my time. There's been times where I've taken friends out to lunch, or I might have been on vacation. I might have been overseas, and somebody was paying me based upon work that I did at a previous time to be able to compensate me now where I wasn't even focused on growing the business in that particular area at that particular time. There are ways for you in this life to be able to make money that's exclusive of your time, and you've got to get yourself out of the mindset of always thinking about trading time for money. Because when people think about that mindset, that's the reason why a lot of times they, get quick, fast jobs. They look for a quick, fast dollar. And the exact same time that you could have been using to be able to build a system that would help make you money over time in an easier way, independent of you busting your back, they sacrifice all those hours because they're just trying to make the money fast and make the money quick without actually thinking into what I'm saying right now, okay? If you want to be able to work for your freedom, and in this context, I'm speaking primarily about your time freedom because your time is more important than your money. I'm sure there's things that you would love to be able to do with your life outside of just being at work. Maybe you might want to spend more time with your family. Maybe you might want to spend more time with your friends. Maybe you might want to spend more time with your spouse. Maybe you might want to spend more time traveling the world. You might want to spend more time with your church community or another civic organization. However you want to spend your time, that's how I am speaking about freedom in this context. Okay, it's not more so kind of under the spiritual guise of freedom, like getting the kingdom of heaven. Those are things that I aspire to be able to do as a long-term goal. But there's certain bits of freedoms that can be afforded to you right now by way of your time. Okay, so the second thing that I want you to do in order to be able to really be able to work for that time freedom or other flexibilities, right? I want you to be able to map out your life. Map out your life and decide what it is that you really want out of life. So here's the question that I have for you right now. Why do you even go to work? What are you doing at work? What is it that you're getting out of your paycheck that's actually changing your life in some type of capacity? Are you just going to work so you can pay the bills? Are you just going to work because you're following a narrative that you've been programmed to believe that every single person, every single day from Monday to Friday has to get up at a particular time to go on a commute and go to work and work at a fixed 8-hour schedule? If that's just the narrative that you've been programmed with by your parents or somebody else just growing up, there's a good chance that you're just following after a life that you see other people doing, but you can't even explain fully why it is that you're doing it. Is your work pattern actually providing you with depth on why you're working, or are you just doing it to check a box? What I want you to do is I want you to be able to map out your life so you can decide what is it that you really want out of life. Okay. If you were living your ideal day right now, what would that look like? Who would you be around? What would you be doing? If you were doing your ideal work, what would that look like? What would you be doing? How many hours would you be working per day? What would be the size of, whatever team you had in place? Maybe you don't want to be an entrepreneur. Okay. Whatever your ideal life is, map it out. Because if you don't map out your life, someone else will map out your life for you. That could be your boss. They're going to give you all these things to do. And, you're really just building somebody else's dream instead of your own. If you don't know what you want out of life, you could be just following after what your parent wants you to be. Your parent told you to be a doctor, so you're a doctor. Your parent told you to be a lawyer, so you're a lawyer. You don't even like practicing law, but you're just following after something to be able to please somebody else, which leaves a gaping hole in your own spiritual life, because it's like you've sacrificed your own passions and your own gifts and your own creativity and your desires to be able to please somebody else. Map out what you want to be able to accomplish in your life. Family goals, travel goals, financial goals, health goals. What is it that you want out of life? And how can you actually work towards getting there? Because if you just have this mindset that, if I just continue to work at this job, one day I'm going to be able to get the life that I want. You don't actually have it mapped out. You don't understand the steps on how you're actually going to be able to elevate from making a certain level of income, being in a certain position, to be able to transcend to another position. You don't really have that figured out. It's this big pipe dream to say, you know what? When I start making this amount of money, that's when everything in life is going to work itself out. One thing that every extremely successful person understands is if you have that type of mentality that, life is only going to get good or rewarding once this far off type of goal is reached, you're already kind of doomed. People that are extremely successful, they're crafting ways for them to be able to live the life that they want to have right now, because they're taking deliberate steps towards that life right now. When I was working in corporate America, there were plenty of times where I didn't want to get up and go to work. And so I said to myself, you know what? Me mapping out my life meant that I want to be able to wake up every single day and I pop out of bed. And if I want to work, all I got to do is go into the next room right next door to my bedroom. And here it is, I'm at work. That was, for me, closer to my ideal want of freedom in this life. Okay? So you got to be able to map that out, because if you don't know what freedom looks like for you, how are you ever going to get there? And while you don't know, somebody else is putting you to work so that way you can build up their freedom. Third thing, and finally, you got to be able to understand that if you're going to be able to have any level of freedom, whether it's time freedom, financial freedom, whatever freedom would mean to you in this earthly context, you've got to be able to understand the power of working now so that way you can play later. Okay. So, a lot of times you guys have seen, maybe me traveling the world, and I've traveled to, several different continents. I've been to the Caribbean islands. I've been to Europe. I've been to Africa. I've been to these different places. And, you could look at that and say, well, yeah, you know what? I want to do that right now. I want to live life right now. I want to be able to make the most of things right now. But again, what you guys don't see, unfortunately, is all of the many hours that I was putting in work behind the scenes before I was ever able to get to that point. What you need to be able to do is, by you actually mapping out what you want your life to look like down the line, you need to actually be working to get to that point right now. Don't be like everybody else that's young and there's like, yeah, you know what? I just want to be able to do it up right now. I want to be able to party it up right now. When I turn 30 years old or 40 years old, that's when I'm going to get serious. I'm telling you, that's a losing game. Why is it a losing game? Because if you prolong your work and your work ethic to the time that you get older, you're just making it harder for yourself, because you're going to have more responsibilities. You could have more kids, more mouths to feed, more bills, more expenditures. But guess what? You're going to have less energy because of the fact that you're getting older. So if I'm in that person's shoes, I want to be able to work while I have the youth, in addition to being able to have some periods of enjoyment and flexibility. Okay? If you try to ball out way too early in your life, man, you're making hell for yourself the older that you get. And you don't want to be able to do that. You want to be able to grind now so that way you can play later. It's no problem with having little breaks of play now and weaving in a certain life now, but don't be so focused on the party now that you just sacrifice everything else later on, right? They have this saying, why live like a king for 1 year when you could live like a prince for the rest of your life? I really kind of want you to think more about having that prince type of mentality, so that way you're not like everybody else that just, they're hitting the club one day, but then they're stuck at a job that they hate for the rest of their life. They're stuck with student loan debt for the rest of their life. They're living, at their mama's house for the rest of their life. Whatever type of situation or jam you could find yourself in by doing that, don't do it. Work now, weave the life that you want to have, so that way you could reap abundantly for years and years to come, and work yourself into financial freedom, time freedom, and other types of freedoms. So that way you could have a life well lived and a life most enjoyed in the here and now. All right. So please, download the Empire Builder. If this message really resonated with you, download the Empire Builder, so that way you can figure out how to be able to grow your life one step at a time. I'm showing you in the Empire Builder, and I'm going to put the link to get it below. I'm showing you how to be able to build your own mini empire starting from scratch. So, I walked you through in the Empire Builder how I went from working in corporate America to quitting my job, create multiple streams of income, get out of debt, and be able to travel the world. If you want to be able to do anything remotely similar, download the Empire Builder and I'll show you how. All right? Take care, and I'll see you guys on the next video.